Apologize for the late start. HR ran over just a little bit tonight. We'll call this meeting of the Board of Education to order. It's Monday, August 14th, 2017. It is now 7:30, and we're in the Nashua High North Boardroom. We'll begin with a roll call, please. Ms. Van Twyver.
Mrs. Oden.
Here.
Dr. Murataki.
Here.
Ms. Van Twyver is here. Mr. Hallowell.
Here.
Mr. Mosier. Mrs. Ziem.
Here.
Ms. Hohensee.
Here.
Mr. Kaufman. Mr. Farrington.
Here.
You have a
And
quorum.
we got a quorum.
Oops, excuse me. Dr. Mosley. I always forget this group. Dr. McKinney, Ms. Fitzpatrick, Mr. Donovan, Ms. Tomasetti is not here, Mr. McIntyre is here. All right, now you have a quorum.
You made Mr. Donovan's day when you referred to him as a doctor. You see the big
Did
smile?
I do it?
It was nice.
All
It was
right.
nice.
I'm getting Mrs. Ziem's habit.
Okay, so we'll continue along with the prayer of Ms. Van Twyver, and then the Pledge of Allegiance. Mrs. Hohensee, please.
Almighty God, we have the high honor and the serious duty of managing the educational institution of our beloved city. In our common endeavors, may we find a spirit of unity and understanding which will enable us to face our multiple problems with an objective mind, with justice and charity for all, so that any and all decisions made by us will be for the betterment and greater happiness of all our fellow citizens. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, moving right along, we have the consent agenda. Mr. Hollowell,
Move to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
seconded by Mrs. Hohensee. Is there anything that needs to be removed from the consent agenda? Seeing none, all those in favor of approving it, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes, unanimous. Nothing removed, nothing communications outside. Public question, comment period, items on the agenda, 15-minute limit. Any takers? None? Okay. Superintendent comments. Dr. Mosley.
Thank you. It's been, I can't believe that I'm seeing the leaves on the ground, and it's in the middle of August. When, with that said, it's the start of school. It's coming up. A couple things. I'm just so impressed with the amount of services and the outreach that has happened so far since I started. I had an opportunity to sit down and talk with individuals from the youth service organization. They talked to me about some programs they have for our at-risk kids, dropout prevention services that they offer, as well as some counseling that really help our students who struggle with the social-emotional pieces. I also had an opportunity to go downtown, and I toured the Harbor Homes services that are available downtown, and it's quite impressive. They offer an array of services for our veterans. They offer services for families, and that's social-emotional. There's some counseling pieces there. There's some healthcare pieces, and some dental pieces as well for our struggling families. I was so impressed and taken back by the services that were offered there. They were just incredible. And they wanted to continue working with the schools. They want to make sure that the right kids get the services and know where to get them. So during our admin retreat, that's scheduled, institute, that's going to take place on Tuesday and Wednesday. We have representatives coming to speak to our administrative team around those services. Just a quick note, the administrative team, directors, principals, assistant principals will be meeting tomorrow and on Wednesday for the annual summer retreat. Certainly one of the things we're going to talk about is just strategic planning, what that feels and looks like for the admin team. We want to focus not on 100 things, but I say 4 or 5 initiatives that we can do with fidelity. That's that word again, Derek. Some of that has already been highlighted for us. We talked a little bit about all-day K. I know that Dr. McKinney has been working on that, working with other elementary principals and staff and trying to make sure that we're up and ready. And I'm very confident that he'll and his team will do that. Other things that will be highlighted during the admin retreat, we're certainly going to talk a little bit about, we have to get into the bells and whistles around civil rights. That's the annual training we do for all our administrators. We're also going to talk about 504, McKinney-Vento law, but all those things that administrators should know. I think it's important, particularly for this year, because we do have some new administrators joining our team, that we certainly need to make sure that people are aware of the policies and laws that govern leadership or administrators. Right now in the district, as many of you know, we're in the process of the the North High School principal search. And thank you, Donna Fitzpatrick, for all of your work that you've done on that. I know it's taken up a lot of your time, and you've done great work on making sure the committee has stayed focused and identified some strong candidates. And so we've narrowed down to 3 finalists. We're scheduled to have those finalists come to the North to do a meet and greet with the community and teachers so that they get a sense of the school and people can give feedback on those candidates. And I will certainly incorporate that feedback and look to the feedback in terms of what the right fit is for the school. So we're busy. We're busy, and it's good to be busy. On August 28th, we're going to come together as a district to welcome everyone here to the district. We're still putting the final details on that welcoming, but the intent of the district is for all staff. Did I get that right, Adam? Staff? Okay. Staff are welcomed to all staff are going to be expected to be here at the North for the gathering of all of our staff here to kick off the school year. So it's busy. It's good to be busy. The schools are going to be ready to be opened, and we're going to certainly welcome our kiddos back after a long, I want to say hot, but it hasn't really been that hot. I'd say cool, rainy, at times hot summer.
I usually start over here. Let's start over here. Board response, Dr. Murtaki?
Yes. I can always tell when we're about to start school because the student athletes are doing laps in the evenings and in the afternoons. And it's just kind of so cool to see the young student athletes, especially like around Nashua High and North, doing their laps as a team. That's exciting. Thank you.
Ms. Zoden?
I just want to say the district has been very busy this summer with all the hiring. I know administration, we've had teachers and administrators on teams, and people have put a lot of time and effort into making sure we have the right people in the right position. So thank you to everybody that's participated. I know central office has been in the conference room down there a whole lot this summer. So thank you to everybody.
Mrs. Hornsey?
Thank you. I too want to thank the administration. We were off to a great start. Everybody's working together as a team. I'm very encouraged. I wanted to point out about the leaves. Those are the Norwegian maples only. We had a wet spring, so they got a fungus, and they've got like this black mold or something on them. But it's temporary, and the trees will survive. But it's only the Norwegian maples, not all the maples.
Well, that's useful to know, because I was going to suggest that maybe his tree was dying and he should have water it, but that's interesting.
That doesn't explain the acorns in your driveway.
I got hit with an acorn today. Yeah, I know, so. Student members, Mr. McIntyre, welcome back.
Yes.
Anything on the Budget Committee, Mr. Hallwell?
No, sir.
And how about Finance? You got some stuff there, right?
Got some stuff there. So, move to approve the purchase of Adobe software at $6,655.50 for the Nashua Technology Center from CTE reserves.
Seconded by Mrs. Oden.
So this is the suite of software that's used by some of the CTE programs that does graphics and all kinds of other tools. The Adobe suite has got quite a number of things to it. So the CTE reserve account is set aside exactly for this kind of thing to make sure we have all the latest and greatest for our CTE programs.
Any questions? Motion is to approve purchase of Adobe software at $6,655.50 for NTC. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Mr. Hallwell.
Move to approve 2 Chrome carts and a total of 60 Chromebooks in an amount not to exceed $15,000.
Second.
Seconded by Mrs. Oden. Comment? Nothing? It's
Again, for
Chromebooks.
the Actually, is this for the CTE program? Yeah, this is also for the CTE program. Is that that's a different account number, though. Is that it's also the CTE reserve?
No, it's just, the only difference is one's software and one's hardware.
Okay,
It's the
so it's
same.
also from the CTE reserves.
Mrs. Ziem and then Mrs. Hornsby.
Did we go over, where are we with the Chrome? Have we got all the Chromebooks we need now? Do we know?
These were purchased for a specific program under CTE. I don't recall which one it was, but CTE tends to be the most up-to-date because it has its own reserve account to purchase those things. So I would say that if they needed more, they would have asked for more.
I was just asking overall.
This was
Didn't discuss
just
it.
Mary Ann Dustin, not Mr.
Okay,
Frankoff.
thank you.
Mrs. Hornsby.
Thank you. I'm a little confused because you're ordering the Chrome carts, 2 Chrome carts for curriculum activities with sophomores in economics and social studies, which is not CTE. Did the competencies change? And why are we using CTE money for economics and social studies?
Mr. Donovan, can you help me out here?
Well,
was
it is part of the Nashua. I think the way this memo is worded is a little confusing. But these Chrome carts are one at North and one at South to be used for the NTC programs.
So it's for the business program, right? Which is why the economics curriculum is in there.
Yeah, possibly. I'm not sure she mentioned the specific program, but I mean, it's a Chrome cart, so it can be used in multiple programs.
Mrs. Hornsby.
Thank you. I'm just confused because it seems to be a project virtual job shadowing. And we have Mrs. Tremblay that ordered them, which, is she a CTE director or a CTE teacher? I mean, it looks like, I just don't know why this didn't go through curriculum, because it looks like there's a change in the curriculum. You're adding something that we didn't have before. And I just want to know, why is it being put in economics? What is the value to CTE? It just seems like it's very non-specific, not clear.
The one thing seems to be clear, we don't have the right person here to answer that question, right?
Right, but this is the hardware that's being used to work. I mean, the Perkins grant has specific items that they're working on. So if you see on the first page of the memo, it talks about, the other sources of funding to support the work. NTC will embed virtual job shadow software into a career unit that will be utilized by every sophomore student at both high schools. And so it's all the information here, a lot of that came from the grant. So this is something they're working on now.
We can ask Ms. Dustin to give you the information.
Mrs. Hornsby.
Okay, thank you. I'd appreciate the information, but I would think in the future that this type of thing would go through curriculum. I mean, I know there's a price tag on it too, but it would be helpful to know what the curricular change or enhancement is when we're approving something like this, just so we understand what's going on, because I read this and I got somewhat confused because Mary Ann Dustin is CTE. You're talking about economics and social studies, so I don't know how they fit together. I don't know what's changed. I don't know which side of the aisle it's being used. It'd be very interesting to have those discussions.
Okay.
So I guess I will say, so I probably misspoke about the business program. So when I read this, so part of the NTC's mission right, is to promote jobs, to career exploration, right? So it's being done in the economics and social studies courses, but it looks to me like it's a unit that they're teaching, right? It's time that they're coming in and teaching students maybe for a day in each of those classes, this job shed. We can get more details from Ms. Dustin, but I can assure you that these funds for Perkins are very restricted, and so it wouldn't be allowed unless it was an acceptable expense in terms of the NTC for them to expend these dollars. So
Dr. Murtaki?
I don't know that it's a
sorry.
significant change in their curriculum.
Dr. Murtaki?
Yes, thank you very much. Actually, Ms. Hohensee brings up a good point. I happen to plan on supporting this motion tonight because I am convinced that the equipment will be used for NTC-related education. However, having said that, I have for years recommended that the topic of technology for education is not just IT. And it really, really needs to receive some focus from a curriculum and education point of view. These are not just office computers. The technology, especially, I'll bring up Common Core if you want, but the thing is, the entire focus of the 21st century educational initiatives are oriented towards making sure that students are not overwhelmed by technology, but that the technology can help to educate the students and to amplify the resources that the teachers bring. The computers do not replace teachers, but we need to know how we're planning strategically on deploying technology to benefit the teachers and to benefit the students. This has not been done in this district. We keep on putting it off. We claim that it's going to be something that we need to address when we do our next 5-year plan, which we've deferred successfully for over 2 years now. So I think moving forward, this district really does need to go ahead and address how it plans to employ technology for education. We can build it in as part of the 5-year plan, but by golly, let's get started. Thank you.
Mr. Howell?
If Dr. Murtaki believes that's something you should be taking up by the curriculum committee, as chair of the curriculum committee, I'm sure he could put it on his agenda.
And I'd like to think, I do believe that when requests come through like this from the district, that there are people that we employ in the district who consider curriculum and how these things are used in curriculum, even though it may not have been discussed at the curriculum committee, but I think that there are I hope there are curriculum considerations. Did I see some hands over here? Was that all?
Yes.
No, Mrs. Hohensee.
Thank you. I think it would be useful in curriculum, not only just to see how this is employed, perhaps it's in economics to lead people into CT. Maybe it's a good tool, but it would be helpful to the board to know. And also, as with any software, we need to know that our students' privacy rights are protected, and a lot of software may or may not, what type of agreements we have. There's a lot of issues, not just, and I'm sure the Perkins grants are very tightly organized and it will be used properly, but I think there's more than just using the Perkins grant and putting it in. In the future, I'd appreciate it if we had a little bit more discussion on some of those other points.
Mr. Howell?
I'll just point out that we've purchased hundreds of Chromebooks in the past, so the fact that the Finance Committee didn't see fit to question some sort of use agreement and privacy rights on Chromebooks,
Okay.
I guess that's been done for years now.
Yeah. Could we just ask Mrs. Dustin to kind of put together a brief memo for the board, just as to how pull these pieces together?
I can certainly, next meeting, talk with the appropriate people to show how the Chromebooks will be used, both as a instrument to gain access to the curriculum. That's perfectly okay.
Great, thank you. Okay, so the motion before us is to approve 2 Chrome carts and/or a total of 60 Chromebooks in an amount not to exceed $15,000. If there's no further discussion, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, motion passes unanimously. Mr. Hollowell.
Move to approve a security platinum maintenance contract with Securidyne for a 1-year agreement at an annual cost of $85,000.
Second.
Seconded by Mrs. Hohensee.
This, when we first put in all our security systems, we opted not to have a maintenance contract because obviously in the initial few years, we shouldn't be expecting. We're now enough years into this that last year we saw a cost of about $99,000 in cameras that needed to be replaced and other servicing that needed to be done. So it probably makes sense to do the maintenance agreement. They had offered us a 3-year deal, which would have been about $3,000 less per year, but it did escalate each year. We opted to do the 1-year agreement, number one, to kind of see what kind of service we get in the 1-year agreement, and number two, just to give us the ability to opt not to carry a security contract the following year if we chose not to. So just to leave the option open.
Anyone, any comments? Dr. Murataki?
So just so that I understand, so the recommendation is to go with the 3-year
No, the recommendation is to go with the 1 year.
1
which is
year.
the motion,
Correct.
at 69?
at $85,000.
85, okay.
All set?
Yes, thank you.
Anyone else? Okay, the motion is to approve a security platinum maintenance contract with Securidyne for a 1-year agreement at an annual cost of $85,000. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Last one.
Move to approve the July transfers.
Second.
Seconded by Mrs. Hohensee. All those in favor of approving the July transfers say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion passes. That's it for finance?
Yep.
Committee on Policy, Ms. Van Twyver.
Thank you. The Policy Committee will meet tomorrow night, Tuesday, 5:30 in the admin conference rooms. We're going to be discussing 5 different things. The first one is the wellness policy that was not completed in June, the last time we met. There was a question about recess before lunch, so the nurse on the Wellness Committee will be there to talk about that. JLCI is concussions and head injuries. The athletic director has recommended some changes on that policy. And then the administration has asked for naming school facilities or an area within a facility, policy FF, to discuss that tomorrow night. And then there has been a proposed psychology policy that will be discussed if we have time, and I hope that we will. So if you're interested in those topics, then tomorrow night's your night. We're glad to welcome you to the administration building. That's it.
Thank you. Curriculum and evaluation, Dr. Murataki.
Yes, thank you. The committee has not met since the last board meeting. The next meeting of the committee, we have not yet determined a time certain for the meeting, but it'll happen after the start of school in September, and it will be noticed in the school board calendar. I do have one request for the superintendent, and per the discussion today, let us add as a discussion topic a framework for how we move forward on technology for education. And I'll let administration tell us what
Okay.
you folks think. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Human Resources, excuse me, Mrs. Zine.
The Human Resources Committee met tonight, and they would like to nominate Erin Anderson as the Assistant Principal at Sunset Heights Elementary for the 2017-18 school year at an annual salary of $73,500.
Second.
Seconded by, was that Mrs. Hohensee? Okay. Is there any discussion? I didn't get the whole motion. The motion is to approve Erin Anderson for Assistant Principal at Sunset Heights for the 2017-18 school year at an annual salary of $73,000?
$73,500.
500.
500. Close. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
And that's it.
Did you have personnel recommendations?
Personnel recommendation.
Oh,
Recommendation.
I'm sorry. I thought that I'm going back to history when we didn't do that.
Okay.
So we would like to recommend the approval of the personnel recommendations dated,
Second?
whatever it is. Here, let me
Today's date,
get it
is
if
it?
I need the date.
August
August
14?
14th, 2017. Thank you, Bob.
Okay, seconded by Mrs. Hohensee. Is there any discussion? All those in favor of personnel recommendation, approving the personnel recommendation, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion passes. That's it for HR?
That's it. Thank you.
We're going at a breakneck speed here.
That's good.
Liaison reports, unfinished business, new business, approval of the 17-18 BOE meeting schedule and committee schedules. Would you like to speak to that, Dr. Mosley, or
Yeah, I mean, I certainly,
I mean, put you on the spot here, but I got nothing to say about it.
I don't have anything to say about it either, Mr. Farrington.
All
I
right,
don't
let's
wanna
just make a motion.
talk to talk, but I can if you like. Like a filibuster, I can do that.
No, we don't need to do that. We're going at this speed. We don't want to slow it down. So,
Move to approve the BOE meeting schedule and committee schedules for 2017-18.
Second.
a whole lot of seconds over here. Let's give it, Mrs. Oden hasn't had one in a while. Let's give it to her. Nobody seems to want to talk about it? All those in favor of, did you have something? No.
I don't remember seeing it.
There.
I'm sure it's
Well,
right.
then we can approve
Just
it.
want to vote.
the
Don't
yellow
be
one.
encouraging
Yeah.
people. Just vote.
Okay, the motion is to approve the 2017-18 BOE meeting schedule and committee schedules. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion passes. It's unanimous. We're already at public comments again. 15-minute time limit. Here he comes.
I wanted one
Oh, I'm
thing for
sorry.
new business.
Okay, go ahead.
I just wanted to ask if we could do a climate survey this year. We've got it on the schedule. Are we starting to think about that? And I was wondering if it would be cost-effective and inexpensive to just do a follow-up for the teachers. We have the questions, just to see if we've made progress, so we have a benchmark for where we are with the old questions, and then get on to the ones that we were going to do this year for parents. You'd have to make it up, all the questions, and that's a lengthy process.
But we did that through New Hampshire, UNH something.
Right,
And
and
I
they-
don't know if that's proper for us to use their questions to conduct our own survey.
No, have them, like, just pay
Oh,
them.
have them do it again?
Yeah, because you want
Oh,
to make,
okay.
you want to make it really anonymous. We
Okay.
can't do it as
right.
anonymously. It just, with the existing framework, just see who's improved, where we need to, if it was inexpensive, I just thought that might be a good follow-up, and then do the next one.
Dr. Maritaki?
Yes, just a quick follow-up. With the board's approval of the Board of Education calendar for the coming year, this basically does mean that there's now a time certain for the next curriculum and evaluation meeting. It will occur on Monday, Monday, September the 18th, at the District Office Administration Building at 5:30. Thank you very much.
Had you considered, had an opportunity in all of that you've been doing?
Yes.
To think about climate
Yes,
survey?
and just to Dr. Maritaki's point, we had originally scheduled to have the meeting at what was on August 29th for the curriculum piece, curriculum and evaluation, but through conversation via email, we wanted to push that off because we wanted to get the start of school, but also there were some questions around some resources, information around updates on full-day kindergarten and what that field will look like at the beginning of school. And so we decided to push that off because we certainly wanted to gauge or get a gauge of what was going on within the first 2 weeks. So the answer to your question is yes. All of the dates that we have that are listed on in the packet are in my calendar and our calendars as well. So the intent is to attend these meetings and to be there, to be ready.
In the climate survey?
So a couple of things. I was going to speak to the climate survey. You have some new administrators coming on board. You have new individuals. So just be aware that in some cases, like I'll just take for instance Ian Atwell. Let's say you get a climate survey as Ian Atwell as the now the full-time principal. He's been there, he's appointed principal. So that would serve as a baseline, or even the new principal coming into this school would be the baseline for that climate survey.
Right.
Whereas other established principals would add more data. Does that make sense?
Right.
Mrs. Zine,
I was just going to ask if anybody remembers what the cost of the UNH survey was.
I want to say it was around 14.
I think it was about $15,000.
That sounds right, thank you. 10,000, Adam is saying.
Yeah, it's less.
It was less. That's good news.
Okay, so we'll put that on the list. Okay, anything else under new
Oh,
business?
Sorry, we're putting that on the list
What
for him
list?
to come back at the next meeting and tell us how much it is and whether
Well,
we're
let
gonna
Dr.,
vote for it.
I thought I'd just let Dr. Mosley, he's got, I think, a lengthy list. Pretty lengthy list you're working with?
So I just, couple things.
We don't have to approve it? Climate survey?
Well, it's going to be up for discussion.
Right.
The couple of things I would, just with the climate survey, you know, I'd read them, you know, maybe this isn't the time to talk about it, but maybe when it's broached at the next meeting, just think about some of the things that you would like to, what I call, introduce a variable for that survey. So what has changed since the survey hasn't been administered? You don't want to waste your time and your money. So if you can think of something that has changed since you administered a survey, that might gauge whether there's been an intervention. So let me give you an example. You may decide that after 1 year, you develop a strategic plan. So you have your plan. And everyone's aware of it, everyone's moving in one direction, and that is what I would consider a variable you've introduced in terms of making, improving the climate. And that can improve the climate because everyone knows where the priorities are going to go, everybody knows where the initiatives are going to head to. And so when you're assessing and asking faculty, is there a vision for the district? The last 2 years, 3 years, you've had several superintendents sitting here, and it's unfair to say that without a strategic plan, people likely are going to answer no, and that's fair. Whereas a year from now, you know, when we have the plan and there's a sense of governance, the question can be proposed, is there a plan for the administrative team in the district? And that can be answered yes, or in the affirmative. So where I'm going with this example, just be aware of when you want to administer the survey, how you want to prioritize resources in terms of $10,000 or $15,000 for a survey.
Mrs. Hornsby?
Just a quick follow-up. I think when we built the survey and ironed out the questions and developed it, it was a lengthier process. We worked with UNH. I was just inquiring if it would be inexpensive to do it this fall, just to get a benchmark from, what was the spring of 16 to the fall of 17. So it's a year and a half. And then when your administration puts in a lot of changes, I think it'll improve even more. But this way, it will help us focus. That's all. If it's not expensive, if it's $10,000, I don't think that's a good idea. But if it was like $1,500 just to get a second finger on the pulse, then it might be cost effective. That's all I was thinking.
And the NTU was involved in that whole process. Was it just the NTU? I say just the NTU. Was it the NTU and the administration? Okay, just the two parties. Okay, so I think we can talk a little bit and look into it and see, we can come back and address it again after we get a little more information on it and think about what would be a good course of action there. Anyone else on new business? No. Try it again, Adam.
Adam Marcoux, 4 Jalori Lane, President of the Nashua Teachers Union. Just quickly on the climate survey, the initial cost was developing it with UNH with the hope that the second time we did it, which originally was scheduled when Mr. Conrad was here for the 17-18 school year, to use the same questions, would be significantly less expensive because we're not rebuilding it. It's already built. But I look forward to those discussions moving forward. There has been significant changes in this district since the last time we took it. So it could be interesting to look at if we did it again. I just wanted to come up and comment that although it's summer, we have been meeting with Dr. Mosley. I've met with Dr. McKinney, and I've met Mrs. Fitzpatrick. And we are developing a very friendly, collaborative relationship between the Nashua Teachers Union and the Nashua School District. Very proactive. I think the amount of communication we've already had signals a desire on both sides to work together for the best interest of the school district and our students. And we're hopeful that that can continue forward as we try to finish negotiations for the teacher's contract and para contracts. The para contract expired June 30th. The teacher contract expires August 31st. And I have about 1,400 people wondering and waiting to see what was going to happen. And we're hopeful that we can all come together and find mutual ground to settle both of those contracts sooner rather than later, so we can continue moving forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Public comment? Board member comments. See, start over here this time. Mrs. Hohensee?
I'm good.
Mrs. Oden?
I just want to thank everybody. It's been a hectic summer, and I want to thank everybody. We've had staff members, administration, everybody working real hard. So thank you very much. And it has been very collaborative from what I've seen. Okay, thank you.
Good. Mrs. Ziem?
I guess I would just like to say, much like Adam said, that in working with our new administrators and with our new superintendent, it's been a pleasure. It's been a real joy, and I'm excited looking. We're going to get on the top of the mountain and feel the breeze. It's going to be great. I really believe that. So be encouraged, folks, because we're headed to high ground. Thank you.
Ms. Hall?
I read an article today about how across the country they're having trouble finding bus drivers, school bus drivers, because the economy is at full employment. I suspect that also means we're going to have a challenge finding crossing guards and finding substitute teachers. We've talked about substitute teachers and crossing guards and to some extent bus drivers for a number of years. I really want anybody out there that has ideas as to how we can get those people to fill those positions. There are some schools that, from looking at the stats, have a significant percent of their classrooms that don't end up with substitute teachers because we can't find them on the day that we need to. So I think we've kicked around some ideas. I don't know that any of them has been perfect, so any ideas from out there would be great. So we look forward to that.
Mr. Darwin, do you have any idea right off the top of your head how many substitute days we pay?
Total number of days paid?
Yeah, so I'm just thinking if we were to increase by $5 a day, what would it cost?
A lot. A lot.
I know it's a lot.
You don't,
That's the answer to everything that we come in. What's it going to cost? A lot.
Well, it's about $1 million, right? Total costs for substitutes, continuing substitutes. So if you add $5 a day, that's about a little less than 10%
Yeah.
of the total cost. So there you go.
and
Okay.
just
I'm
to,
sorry, you're going to say something else.
yeah,
Go ahead.
just to speak to the bus driver, we did meet. They have a new terminal manager this year. We met with him and talked about opening of school. They're still looking for bus drivers, so, but they do have some in the pipeline. We should be in better shape this year than we have the last 2 years to start the school year, so
Sorry, didn't mean to make that a new business.
Little
No,
bit of
no.
good news.
Since you bring it up, we should talk about it briefly anyway. Dr. Martaki?
Yes, thank you very much. Last week, I announced that I would not be seeking reelection to a third term at the school board. So I just wanted to read this little ditty from the city clerk's office. Filing period for candidates interested in running for office in the November 7, 2017 municipal general election will begin on Tuesday, August 29th, 2017 at 8 a.m. in the office of the city clerk, City Hall, room 102. The filing period will close on Friday, September 8th, 2017 at 5 p.m. You need 50 certified petitions, which usually means you need about 75 in order to get 50 certified petitions in order to run for a 4-year at-large term for the National Board of Education. So I encourage those of you who are thinking about running to make sure you hurry up and get your petitions at the city clerk's office and start gathering those signatures. Thank you very much.
Just as a tip, you can print them at home and you can type in and load a lot of the data so you don't have to keep writing it.
That's a good tip. Thank you very much.
Ms. Van Twyver?
Well, school starts in a couple of weeks, and I wish the administration a smooth sailing for the day one.
Okay, the only thing I have, Dr. Mosley and I have been talking a little bit about having we haven't settled on a date, and we need to refine a little more, but a work session or two for the board once we get the schools up and running, where we can sit down and not have a long agenda and just talk a little bit about board governance and how we conduct our business and how we can conduct it more efficiently. And so be thinking about that. We're going to give everybody a chance to get the schools going, and then we'll, in the latter part of September, we'll start talking about just when we want to do that. That's all I've got. Anybody got anything else? Seeing none, the next meeting is Monday, September 11th. Schools will be up and running 7 o'clock here. I'm sorry.
Oh, non-public.
Mrs.
We
Holmes.
wanted to make a motion to go into non-public under RSA 91A3 2C.
Second.
Okay with that?
Yes, we can do that. I'm good with it.
Roll call, please.
One moment, please.
I'm sorry.
Just a minute.
Okay.
I'll also have a need for a non-meeting right after this meeting.
Mrs. Oden,
Yes.
Dr. Murataki,
Yes?
Ms. Van Twyver says yes. Mr. Hallowell,
Yes?
Mrs. Ziem. Yes. Mrs. Hohensie,
Yes.
Mr. Kaufman's not here. Mr. Farrington.
Yes. We're in, this is unanimous, right?
Right.
We're in at 8:13.